Hey guys, I just came across this thing, art installation, and I wanted to step through it. There's a sign that says it's about the construction of buildings and it's an experiment that refutes construction as a rational and code enterprise. It seeks to develop a specific kind of construction that deviates from the norm and values a primitive instinct for mass balance. There's more written on there, but I'm going to move on. So today I wanted to talk about something that I have written a little bit about, but I just want to have it in like video form too, which is the idea that I got from a few different teachers and practices, but feels like important to me. And I think when I talk about it, I talk about like feeling each gesture, but there's a few examples. Like I took this figure drawing class in SF. Wow, I found a big path. So I took this figure drawing class in SF, and it was like a 6-month class, but for the first 3 months, and it was like in this beautiful studio that this dude made, and it had like a loft space, and it was covered in clocks, and anyways, for the first 3 months, all we do is make marks. Like you have a piece of charcoal and you have your paper, and all you do is make marks, and like you're supposed to look at the figure, the model, and listen to the music, which was like often Radiohead, and respond to like the auditory, visual, physical, like the sensory stimuli, like the feel of the charcoal stick and its edges in your fingers, and then like move with that and let all of those stimuli like sort of express itself through some kind of motion that your charcoal makes on paper. And like the feeling of every gesture is what led to the most beautiful marks. And it's just like responding to light and shadow, and like letting your body respond to that and moving in this way through drawing, as opposed to like, oh, there is a model, there is her head, let me draw the outline of her head. It's like you just see like you just remove all of those like wow, tree. It looks cooler in person. You remove all of that like sort of cognitive like labeling that you do in your head, and you just respond and draw and move to that. And after like maybe midway through the class, we would take up all of our papers and put them up against the wall and have some tea and like cake, and then we would critique the marks that we made. Like you take your favorite mark and you put it up on the board, and what was fascinating is just like how beautiful marks can be, and what a big range there is in a single mark, and that like you could really tell when someone really felt expressive and when they were really in the experience of making their mark, as opposed to like chicken scratching. And we did this for like 3 months, and then we started finally drawing like the actual model, and it made such a huge difference, because every single mark you make as you're drawing and responding to the stimuli, is what the final piece is made up of. And like when you're finally entering into a space where you're drawing like an actual, when you're trying to draw instead of just make a single mark, you realize every single mark you just are responding and doing this over and over, and then suddenly you're like, oh, I have drawn a figure. So that was one example. The other example was when I was learning piano when I was a kid. We spent so much time on the physical mechanics of your finger dropping onto the key. So it was like lighting upon a cloud, she said. And then we spent so much time on just like the turn of your wrist, how your thumb hits a note, and like that these gestures is what made up playing piano. And like we really just, it's like scales, but more with like each single movement of each note, and the tone of each note is what ultimately makes the full song. And like how important it is to focus on feeling each gesture, each note, each tone. And yeah, when I think about like, and I guess like third example of my own is for climbing. Like I love each movement. Every foot I place my toe upon, there's like, oh, is my toe on like, I don't know, this side of the crystal or that side of the crystal? Like it makes a big difference in your technique. And also like really loving stretching my body, like reaching my arm out to grab something, and then feeling all of my muscles sort of hang upon that and shift and respond to each movement. I think that takes me a long ways in terms of like technique and just my, like that has fueled my love of climbing for over a decade. And like I just feel like it's also really important for me to love especially for climbing, each movement, because that then fuels how much I am able to put in. Like the fact that I love each incremental step is what has allowed me to take like 10,000 steps, right? And also that each gesture, each mark, each movement is what ultimately makes up like this overall song or larger project or what have you. And when I think about like the difference in hearing a novice versus like a master, it's usually in the technique and expressiveness and love in each gesture. This also applies to design. I think when I work with like a very advanced designer, he was just like every click was very intentional. Like the way you drop a layer, the way you name your layers, like, or this chef that I worked with, every slice of the onion was like very clean. And I think about that a lot as I try to get better. I think it can be hard to do sometimes, but it feels like a good principle for myself to like try to adhere to. And just it feels very important for getting myself to not only have like like it allows me to find areas where I can even love something enough to pay attention to that and cultivate that. And it also allows me to like increase the technical expertise, because this is like your craft, right? To like get into the flow state and be really attuned to something. And yeah, also that I don't think I can, that as I do this I find out like which areas I don't even enjoy the incremental step, and therefore I end up like not pursuing that area. So yeah, I think that's the gist of this idea for the day. Cool. Bye guys.